I feel like it's just like continuation of like this struggle, this fight that some people feel is over, and it's very, very much not. I don't know if it will ever be.
There's actually like a few books and documentaries on the fact that Buffalo had like one of the largest amounts of like secret queer bars in like the nation, really. And yeah, it was just kind of mind-blowing to come back and see like a lot of it getting pushed out. Like, for example, there's no more lesbian bars in Buffalo, and when I was out, there was 3. And the last bar to close was Roxy's on Main Street. Across the board, Allen Street is being like heavily gentrified, and like all the bars are in danger. And so it's kind of interesting to see what that comeuppance is, because I feel like if it wasn't for queer and LGBTQ assimilation into the mainstream, we would have fought a lot harder to keep space.
That if you go back to the 90s, as the idea of being more open about your sexuality was just starting to catch on more, we kind of did develop into a very bar and club centric kind of community. Those were the places that we felt safe, like we could be ourselves, and of course it was the only place really that we could go to find love or romance or lust.
And at that time, it was like a place I could leave like my neighborhood and go to. And all the old queens there, they knew I was young and they would be hyper tender to me. And they're like, you're okay here. Like you can be yourself. You don't have to worry about like verbal or physical attacks. And for a great deal of queer people, they don't have families. Like their families cut them off. So queerness became their queer friends became their families, Before Trump, there was a thought that we didn't really need to fight that hard because we'll be okay. And now we're seeing out of the woodworks a massive amount of like anti-LGBTQ legislation, like on the books, like law-wise, outside of just like a cultural backlash. Yeah, even on Allen Street, there's been like a rash of like physical attacks like rising, and like even for me and my friends, like, I'm pretty hardcore, very few people approach me on the street, but like my friends who are more femme presenting, like they get yelled slurs out of cars now. And that was not happening for years. So it's getting rough out here. And the more space we can create, the more important it is to like make sure these spaces stay, but also keep in mind that gentrification looks good on the outside in terms of the shine, but there's a lot of folks being pushed out of Allentown, which is a hyper-gay community. And if you're getting pushed out of Allentown, where else is there that you're safe? You're not gonna go to fucking Tonawanda, or Black Rock or the East Side. Like, West Side is a bit more queered up because everyone had to move there because rents are cheaper, but it's not safe. So these are questions we need to ask when we're like building up, so to speak. And especially coming from like a Rust Belt city that has been like dogged down for so long, like we get excited when like things are coming up and getting shiny and beautiful, but it's at the same time like, who is it for?
One of the most important aspects of this project is that we will be literally stamping the public realm with a rainbow. And it's not only a symbol of the LGBTQ community, but it's a symbol for everyone and everyone alike in unity. And I think that's what's more important to think about. Gay people. Yes! So another really striking piece about this is that the Gallery Walk happens only once a month. Pride Week happens only once a year. So this project, the intent of it is that it will be a permanent stamp, or it's permanent as the weather will allow, to see and show off the rainbow year-round.
Sure. So today we rallied over at Days Park right here in the heart of Allentown. We're pushing legislation that would change the New York State Constitution to expand civil rights, to expand anti-discrimination law to protect individuals throughout the state of New York. The state constitution hasn't been updated since the 1930s, and the anti-discrimination law that's in place today is based on race, color, creed, and doesn't include things like age and sexual orientation, gender, and things to that nature that you would think as a progressive state here in New York, we would have those protections all across the state. And so the legislation that we're advancing that'll change the Constitution will encapsulate the LGBTQ community, women, and no matter who you are in the state of New York, you will be protected.
That these safe spaces that we have now today are coming more in cultural elements, where art galleries and coffee shops and things like that, places outside of the bar.
The Pineapple Company was established last year in October, essentially as being an artist in the area. I curated a series of shows last year, all LGBTQ focused, and carrying with that theme, and me and a group of people that got together for weekly drawing nights, always looking for a gallery space. Well, when this space opened up, I snatched on the opportunity, and the 6 of us opened up the Pineapple Company. This is our first summer full of programming, so we've been packing it with poetry readings, and we just had a huge pride party on Friday where we collaborated with a local troupe of drag queens and nightlife performers. We turned out about 300 to 400 people in the backyard. So essentially, we've kind of crafted a space that's welcoming to underexposed artists, and all 6 of our art in retail is available all the time. But the main wall, the biggest wall in the space, is dedicated to underexposed artists.
We do around 15 events a month, minimum, and those range from film screenings like Real Queer, which is a queer-created and queer syndicated cinematography program we have, and that's every month. And it features a queer LGBTQ centric cinematographer and their work. We also have musical performances a few times a week, ranging from noise to free jazz, indie, punk, synth pop, industrial, black metal, and shoegaze. So we try to have shows here that you wouldn't necessarily see in a lot of other spaces, and we also have extremely low fees, and we're pretty artist-centric here. So, and that's because we're all artists. The space is run exclusively by around 15 creatives. So, with all of our forces combined, through volunteering, we make it happen.
What we're doing here, we have a full stock of flags that you will not find at Canalside, or find selling at the vendors that are on the parade route, and people throughout the year, all year round, are looking for those representations. There's button makers here, so people can come in and make their own buttons, and help define their own identities. There's binders, basic. Basic needs like that, waist trainers, and basic needs along those lines, that we provide those needs, and then just fun things. We're planning on selling glitter, in the next next coming months. People have been demanding glitter, so we're looking to be selling glitter very shortly. So yeah. Specifically biodegradable glitter. There's some very specific, things that are going on in San Francisco that we have to implement here in Buffalo. The city of San Francisco recognized that there are certain characteristics of neighborhoods, related to the people who live in those neighborhoods that need to be preserved. It's not just about buildings. It's not just about it's not just about what the things that are bringing in the tourists, that, but it's the people who already live here, that needs to be preserved.